big pleasure to see you again.
My pleasure. My pleasure. What is going on in Silicon Valley?
Oh, there's so many things happening. Just recently, the Mr. President has visited California, so there was a big movement all around. Even I've seen some jets in the sky and helicopters, so it's like I never saw such measures of security. Yeah, so it was really
security was a little bit tight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And but in general, if you are talking about tech industries, there are so many events happening, and I'm receiving like a list of events, and it seems like it's dozens just in a couple of days. So you can, visit
over the top. Yeah, you cannot be in many places at the same time at many conferences.
Unfortunately, you can't, and even if you can, then it's could be too exhausting to visit all of them. So,
yes, you need to.
You should be here. Have you seen this movie, Mr. It was I don't remember. Like protectors or defenders or watchers, and there was a guy like Mr. Manhattan. So he could split for many.
Oh, I see. So it's like quantum physics. So he could be like a quantum particle.
Yeah,
at several conferences, at several meetings at the same time.
Yeah, and I would like to have these abilities, but the technology
maybe a little bit later over time, with some experience.
Yeah, maybe with Vision Pro you could be everywhere, but in the same time it's very challenging. You cannot, be very focused on all of them.
Focus on one thing. It's maybe it's overload for our brain. Artem, I want to launch a startup in IT industry. Yeah, but what are the major trends in IT? I haven't decided. We have discussed that artificial intelligence is like a hot directions, and what are some other directions startups can make money in IT?
I'm writing. I trying to write about trends every year, and they are changing in time. They're changing. Maybe when we are talking about the big trends, they're not changing like all the time, but it seems like they can be overlapping, because now the hottest topic, of course, is AI. It's everywhere. It's becoming very annoying already. So it's like AI, and there are so many memes about AI. Yeah, in general, it's the hottest trend, but it seems that if we are talking about trends in general, then I suppose it's augmented reality and virtual reality with this release of Vision Pro, and now I believe that other companies like Meta will be also competing even harder, and Samsung and Google. So I believe this is it could be the next point of competition and direction of competition. So yeah, in fact, there are so many. Quantum computers is also a very big trend, as it will increase the performance dramatically. And so like artificial intelligence now is combining in deep learning and machine learning and all these learning technologies. And I should say that also big data is still very big trend. So it will be also evolving. I mean, now we have even more data, and it seems like with each year the data is
growing exponentially.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's doubling every I don't know, every year or every couple of years amount of data.
Say the exact speed. I also measure it time to time, and but it's growing, yeah, really intensively. By the way, it's really interesting to compare some parameters, so we can say exactly what is the speed of growing. And also, I believe that embedded systems also will be embedded and autonomous system will be also evolving. So now with, you know, if we are talking about ChatGPT, the source code is very small, so it could be embedded everywhere. Yeah, the one thing is what kind of data it will be used for training, but in general, this kind of technologies became very
like almost standard. Soon probably children will be using it.
Yeah, it's just can be applied everywhere. Like, you know, now we have microchips in every washing machine,
every device,
microwave, yeah, every device. So this artificial intelligence, yeah, maybe it will not be so smart as ChatGPT, but it definitely can be applied for you know, for doing some smaller specific jobs, and it's some kind of enhancement of microchips and microprocessors. So it will be like another layer of computing. So this is another trend. So yeah, probably this is, but the biggest trend that's now is evolving, and I believe this is like the big wave. You know, it's like a smaller waves, but the big wave is biotech. It's definitely biotech, as it's you know, now all the high-tech technologies, they are pushing forward all the biology and medicine and pharmacy, and it will create totally new possibilities in the whole industries, you know. So it's just pushing forward, and not, of course, not only biotech, like miltech as well will be evolving together with all these technologies. But I mean that biotech has the biggest capacity and the biggest value, as it can increase dramatically the quality of life, the longevity, so like the nutrition, so it could change everything, you know. All these biosensors, biometric measurement, like specific like blood pressure, heart rate. So there's so many things could be happened in this industry. It's I believe we will see a lot of changes soon, like in perspective for 5-10 years.
Wow, thank you, Artem. Thank you for clarifying it, because I thought that biotech, it's like GMO. You know, I was confusing this biotech with GMO, genetically modified food, and now I understand that this different thing is about measuring like parameters of your body and maybe diagnostics. Maybe I should launch.
Yeah, Alex, I really recommend for our viewers to check the latest episode where we were talking with Sam Mitra, unfortunately, the sound wasn't perfect, but the content is great, and there are so many things were discussed and described. So yeah, we were exposing so many interesting trends in biotech, and I believe this is totally an interesting area of growth for all the humanity. So it can change our lives dramatically. Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine that.
Yeah,
I
don't
will
forget
have
to
this.
to subscribe to the channel, because this is how we and comment, make comments, because it's also very important.
I can imagine I will have this little device, and for example, in the morning I wake up and I'm having my cup of tea, and I look at the device, and the device tells me your happiness level is 95%, or we recommend you to adjust this parameter or to adjust that parameter. Yeah, maybe you need to take take a 20-minute walk.
Yeah, I will not retell everything, but just a few words. So what dramatic shift could happen? It's for now we are measure with our smartwatches, like steps and maybe our sleeping phase and time and heart rate. But in the future we could measure so many parameters, and we can literally, and with our genome sequencing, we can literally at first prevent all the possible diseases. Like, we can diagnose them before they will happen, because we just know how it works. It is the first. The second one, we can create, okay, not the drugs, we can create some specific diet for a specific person with specific just habits and lifestyle and etc. So it will be so adopted, so it will just tell you, okay, now you need to have this, now you need to have this, now you have to exercise. So it will just create a perfect lifestyle and perfect nutrition and it will prevent diseases. So you don't need to cure diseases later when it will happen. You will prevent.
Most doctors will lose their jobs.
No, they
yes,
don't lose their jobs. They will just be more like
different role.
More like advisors, and so there
artificial
will be
intelligence companies.
Yeah, the medicine will just shift from the urgency to preventing. So. And of course, there are always something unpredictable could happen.
Some minor mistakes.
We still need to have this traditional medicine, but preventing medicine will become the main trend. Yeah. So and the quality of doctors will be measured differently. But I just recommend to watch our previous episode, and there are so many things. But today, what do you want to discuss today?
Yes, Artem, I want you to, at the end, I want you to leave the link to the previous program at the bottom. So I personally want to review it. Yes, I can imagine it's gonna be food so we will use food instead of medicine. And I can imagine I go to my favorite restaurant, and the host meets me and say, "Oh, Alex, nice to see you. Your dish for today is ready. It was cooked according to the recipe of our artificial intelligence program."
Yeah, something like this. Yeah, it could be.
And Also, now you see, so we run this program to give some ideas to people, but in the future, this this artificial intelligence program will give startups the best ideas. Say, oh, there's a niche, market niche for you here. This is what you have. There is a demand for this kind of software, or there is a demand for that kind of software.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you don't need to have artificial intelligence right now. You just need to have a good analytical skills. But yeah, I think that artificial intelligence could be used for assistance in it as well.
It will be guiding startups
Yeah,
and venture capitalists.
yeah, this is the biggest risk of artificial intelligence. That's we could lose this personal guidance. We shouldn't to give too much to artificial intelligence. It should assist, not to think instead of us.
Definitely, it's
And
gonna be
because
like recommendations,
yeah,
not
this is the
not.
biggest risk. As when artificial intelligence will be too intelligent, this is when people just can lose their confidence.
Also,
And
you see,
it could be
because
very
of
depressing.
competition keeps people smart, so people have to learn. But then say, okay, artificial intelligence will make a decision for me.
Yeah, but we also discussed it before.
um, Artem, speaking of venture capital, so as far as I understand, what is the role of venture capital in developing in IT industry? So as far as I understand, venture capitalists, they can redirect their capital in on different directions of the industry, and basically they can influence develop of IT industry in one or other direction. Do you think they have enough power to do this? Basically, by investing, by channeling their investments in one or another area, they can influence the whole industry.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not only about IT industry; it's about all industries. So venture capital can work in every area. It doesn't necessarily to work in specifically in IT, but IT became very efficient, and that's why a lot of startups right now are mostly in this area, because of this all Facebook and Google and Microsoft and Apple. So, but I just want to emphasize why venture capital is still very important in the innovation process. So of course all these startups, they mostly based on some technologies, and of course these technologies created by whom? By some inventors and scientists. So mostly fundamental science is on the basement of everything, and then the layer of technology, and then the layer of innovation, startups and businesses. Oh no, maybe businesses and then startups, because yeah, where is this venture capital is coming from? So it is the money that's collected as profit from businesses that's already using some technologies, and because they have this profit, they can reinvest it to new innovations. but because it's not, but because it's very high risky enterprise, I mean, startups is very risky. Starting, so it's like the risk is very high, like 90% at least, so of not surviving. And because of it, businesses like big corporations like Apple and Google and all of them, they don't want to risk with with product that they are not sure about, or they will have to invest so much that sometimes if it will fail, and we have these stories in the past, it could lowers the reputation of the company, and because of it they risk not only with this product but the value of the whole company in general. So that's why startups, for big corporations, startups are very nice diversification of the high risk projects financing. So but they don't want to create like another company. They just invest into the startup, and if it will grow, then they can buy it. Yeah, of course, it could happen that startup don't want to sell if they are very successful. But this is how new companies will arise. And from the philosophical point of view, for me, I see that venture capital in startups is the best way to redistribute the capital inside some economy and ecosystem. Because if you will not do it, so all these talented and hardworking people that's creating startups and making innovations, if they will not have this opportunity to get the financing, then what will they do? Or they have to work on this big corporation, but this is like a stagnation. So if they cannot change the corporation from inside, at least they can create their own company and challenge the main players. Yeah, main players should invest somehow, or banks or institutions, to these new startups. And this is a very natural and organic way of redistribution the capital. So, okay, you should share your capital, but you have an opportunity to grow together with these new startups and innovations. And I see it as very civilized way to redistribute the capital. Because otherwise, these smart, talented people will be like a really tough opposition to these companies, and it can create a lot of social tensions, and it can bring even to revolution in some way. If there are no way to earn money and challenge the biggest companies with bigger capital, so it's a very unjustified injustice environment, and it could bring to some tensions and even revolutions. That's what happened before in 1917 in Russia. So that's what happened in French, also. So it can happen everywhere if you will not be wise enough to to redistribute and
redistribute wealth a little
bit.
But
the point is not to redistribute the wealth. The point is to have the opportunity to create new value in a different way. And this is the reason why this capital should be redistributed, because oh guys, you do something very efficiently, even smarter than we do. Okay, we will give you money. Let's make this together. So maybe they do it not because they want it, but because it's just necessary. Motivations could be very different, but in general, for the ecosystem, if something is growing better and giving more crops, why shouldn't you use it?
Use different crop,
and
yeah, so
cultivate it.
everyone
So,
starts using it.
yeah, it's like, okay, let's just make an analogy. So there are like several kinds of the same tree, and one tree became more better,
More productive, or maybe the
yeah,
fruits are sweeter
of
or
course.
have more vitamins.
Then you will try, to get seeds from this tree and plant specifically this kind of tree. It's like selection, and this is what's happening in this venture capital world and startup ecosystem. So for me, this is the best way for now. We don't have something more
Something better, something more efficient. I see. So it sounds like this venture capitalists, they're like, like Darwin for, for agriculture.
yeah,
So they
Darwin
select the best
for
company and the
technologies.
best
Yeah.
ideas,
Yeah.
invest in the best ideas.
Yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, this venture capital working not very efficiently, and this is why we have a crisis right now, but we will talk about it later.
We will fix it, yes. Artem, so I want to attract some venture capital, but what is the standard process for a startup to attract venture capital? How can we find out names of this venture capitalists? Who are, how can we find out the names of most successful venture capitalists? And I was just throwing like 2 or 3 questions so you have enough space between the questions. Yeah, and so for example, should I choose just one venture investor and venture capital in my startup and just work with him? I don't know, maybe if I speak to the second one, maybe the first one will get jealous. Shall I try to attract investments in my startup just from one venture capitalist, or is it better kind of to diversify and have 2 or 3 investors? What do you think of that?
Very interesting question. And the answer will be probably not very obvious.
Not very precise. Not very precise. It's like little bit like
the
quantum
best way
physics.
is not to have a venture capital at all.
If you can do without it.
Yes, and the reason why is very simple. If you can survive without the venture capital, it means that or you just too good in marketing and sales and product development or whatever, providing services, and you just don't need it. You're already successful and you already can grow as big as you need. This is the first point. The second point, okay, maybe you are not growing as fast as you want, but at least you can survive without this money. So why you should? Yeah, the reason is there could be sometimes moments when you have to grow faster, but it's when, for example, there are like a very hot competition, and if you will not be fast enough, then your market will be just eaten by other players. But this is a very specific situation. Yeah, it happens sometimes, but in general, so it's like, you know, you should have an ally. So venture capital is a ally, you know, to go faster. So, but if you can go without the venture capital, it's better to consider the different options. And venture capital is not the only one source of finance. Yeah, so there are many of them, but a lot of people use venture capital for several reasons. First, they cannot survive without it, so they have to, you know, to pitch their startup to many venture capital or companies, and yeah, there are so many of them. Yeah, that I believe you can count, like, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of venture capital all around the world, and maybe even more. I cannot say the precise number, but there are a lot of them. And when we are talking about selecting and choosing, it's like a partner, you know, and the same, yeah, in some way it could be a bit random, but it's more you in the industry is better you understand it's not random at all. So you need to create a very specific criteria why exactly this venture capital is the closest to you, to your startup, to your mission, to your values, to your vision. Yeah, so this is how you understand, is this venture capital is good enough for you or no. So in general, everybody's thinking that venture capital is selecting you, but no, it's you selecting them. And when you will be very precise, then it's the best way to attract the venture capital, because the best moment of raising capital is when you don't need it at all. Yeah, and you select venture capital not because you need the capital, it's but because you want to have a partner like them, and they have something that could be very useful for you. Not only money is a resource. There could be so many things like technologies, I don't know, patents, just some connections, a lot of things. Yeah, maybe it's just a wise guy that can help you in your journey together.
Yes, I can imagine that you see if, 10 out of 100% of startups survive. So this venture capitalists, they're in this business for many years. So I can imagine they have experience and they have connections. So they can help with ideas, and they can help with so maybe they can see some.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they will help you with ideas.
They're not mentors. Usually, venture capitalists are not mentors.
Maybe just because they receive a lot of like offers from startups, like pitch decks, etc. They just, you know, have a lot of information about the industry, but as 90% are not surviving, then all this information probably is also not very valuable. Maybe only 10% of from it is what really matters, you know. So in this way, you never know what story will be successful. But yeah, with this experience, they just see, okay, there is a good team, there is a good idea, there is a good something, So yeah, in general, they just have more experience in understanding and information about the market. So they see trends on some other level, because when you're a startup and you just see something, from down to up, and they see it's like from top to down, and they
So they
just
can
have
see,
a different perspective.
bigger
They
picture. Yeah,
It's not bigger, just different perspective, because
different
sometimes,
angle.
yeah, it's not necessary they see the whole picture, they just see the different perspective.
Different angle. Yeah. Artem, you preempted my next question. So like for a startup, so maybe as far as I understand, there are different ingredients. There are several ingredients of success. It's like a good idea and talented, hardworking team, and maybe some. Yeah. So what are the most important components for a startup to be? When we go on a date, we try to put on a nice suit. So what, to look better. Yeah. What are the critical components for a startup to attract good investors? Number one. Number two, what is a standard process, typical process? As far as we know, like elevator pitch is one of the tools. And what are the critical components of a good elevator pitch? Yeah, and maybe the third question. So should I try to ask this venture capitalist for a lot of money at once? Or maybe we can kind of make a deal and I can get a little bit and then a little bit more and then a little bit more. So maybe we can make a deal. If you reach this milestone, I will give you more money. You reach this milestone, I will. Okay, so those are three questions. Critical components for a startup, and critical components of an elevator pitch, and what are best strategies to communicate with venture capitalists?
Definitely there are several factors that play the main role. It's the team and experience of the team, to generate ideas, to execute ideas, and create revenue. And especially now, and this is what's changing right now, is that if in the past the idea can be like the key factor, then the team. So now the revenue is the main measurement of the team or startup efficiency. So if there is no revenue, then now when money became more expensive, yeah, it's weird, but yeah, money also has its price, and money now more expensive. So because of it, revenue became more important in selecting startups for venture capital, because when there was like a good when economy was in a good shape, then everybody have a lot of money and they have a lot of profits, so they can reinvest these profits to new startups. Now it's getting the economy
little bit more
shape.
tougher.
Yeah, and I should say that it's decreased like 2 times. And if it was about 180 billions invested in startups on this first round, and not on the first, but now it's about 80 billions in US. So what does it mean? That's the market became smaller, and because of it, it's became harder to get this investment, and that's why criteria has changed as well. So, what was the third question?
Communication with venture capitalists. So for example, should a startup ask for a lot of money and then be rejected, or maybe ask a little bit, and so maybe it will be easier to get less and then later ask for a little bit more? What are some good strategies?
Yeah. There are some standards in the industry. So for pre-seed, it's about, I don't know, 200, 500 maximum thousands of dollars that you can ask for. On the seed round, it's about 500 to $1 million dollars. On round A, it's like 1 million and higher, and then it could be higher amounts. So in the industry, there are some like standards, and you probably will play this game because this is like a standard. And how much do you need to ask? You can ask whatever you need, and this amount should be very I mean, you should explain why exactly this amount you need. So if you cannot explain and you just want money, it's a bit weird. So sometimes it's a very precise amount, so like very precise. Yeah, in some way it should be in these ranges, but you should understand why you need specifically this amount and what for, and you should explain it. So for example, okay, you need it for attracting new customers, okay, you need it for development, okay, you need it for marketing, okay, or whatever. So everything should be explained. It's like, you know, when an NGO, they also, when they fundraise money, the process is very similar, but NGO is just very public and transparent, and so they just show all the expenses they have to do, and that's because of these expenses they try to raise this amount of money to fulfill all these costs. The same in the startup, but they're just different goal. If NGO is not non-profit, so there your idea is to gain profit. So, but it's almost the same, almost.
Yes, thank you, Artem. Very, very interesting. And it seems, you see, maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe it was, easier to come up with, it seems to me, to come up with ideas. For example, you decide to create a search engine. Everyone needs a search engine. Okay, there were 16 search engines or something. Yeah, but now the market is becoming a little bit more volatile, and what they say, there is kind of little bit more uncertainty on the market. So most people are not sure is the market like going to develop this way, or is it going to develop the other way? So what are some strategies that startups can use, what they use this expression to assess the risks and mitigate the risks? For example, can a startup invest their efforts in developing like 2 or 3, like diversify their portfolio? Could they maybe invest their effort in 2 or 3 different products, for one product for this kind of scenario, and the second product for a different scenario? So what do you think? What are some strategies for startups to deal with this volatile market?
Yeah, I just remembered something to append to the previous question about this amount. So definitely you should have the strategy of fundraising and your capital table. So without it, you probably could be misled to somewhere that you don't want to go. I mean, there's all these fundraising processes. Just
as far as I understand, normally a venture capitalist will ask to present this strategy, how the money will be spent, and
not necessary. No, it's not what they need. They have their own strategies. They have their own interests. But because you cannot be sure in the real intentions of the investor, you should have this strategy for yourself. Otherwise, you will be played, not playing. Yeah, so this is what you should know, probably. And about this,
how to deal with uncertainties. What are some of the strategies?
Yeah, if you're in position of investor, you probably will you definitely will try to diversify your risks. So you will try to invest in different startups, maybe not the direct competitors, but at least that will be doing some in some area, but in different way. Yeah, and this is wise strategy, because if this startup will not be successful, probably this one could be more successful. So for investors, this is a great strategy. For startups, it's a bit challenging, because when you have a lack of resources, then you probably will focus on one idea or one business model. And yeah, this is very painful, because if you will not be successful, then you should pivot. Yeah, make a pivot, like change the direction. And sometimes it's very painful, because usually it happens when you're not in the best shape financially. So this is what usually startups do when they are not in the good condition. Otherwise, why you should change something? But if you work with a startup as an experiment, like a scientific experiment, and this is the best way, because then you are not too sentimental, to stay attached to some idea just because you are blindly, fanatically believe in it, because this could bring you to even worse situation. But if you are just doing the startup like an experiment, okay, that it works, great. How efficient it works, great. Or it doesn't work, it works not very efficiently, and then you can just make a very reasonable decision. Okay, it works, we will do it harder or bigger. okay, this doesn't work with all our efforts, so we should skip it. Or yeah, this is how many efficient companies and startups are working, and I believe this is the best way. Yeah, of course, you should believe in your mission, in your vision, in your team, and support each other. But you know, in this particular, when you deal with risks, it's better to to deal with them as a scientific experiment when you are very precise in your uh, understanding the situation.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Artem. It sounds very interesting. You know, I guess John Rockefeller said that it's very unlikely that someone will become successful following in someone else's footsteps. So generally, companies that try something new becomes kind of, it's risky, but also generally it's more rewarding. And you touched this interesting point that on the one hand, a startup needs to be persistent, like to work hard toward their goal. But on the other hand, it's an interesting combination between persistency and flexibility. And on the other hand, they need to keep their eyes open to see maybe some better and attractive opportunities. And as you said, pivot, maybe sometimes change the direction at the right moment. But the question is, what is the right, how can a startup find the right balance between being persistent and being flexible?
I don't see how it could be like, yeah, it could be challenging in some way, but in general, when you're just driving the car, when you have a straight line, you're just pushing
Accelerator.
pushing accelerator, and you just increase the speed. But when you see that it will be turning somewhere to the right or to the left, then of course you will decrease the speed. Then you will make a maneuver, and then you will start push accelerator again. So this is how it works. So yeah, and you should be very observative to understand that something is coming, and this is why you should make some changes. And these changes should, of course, if you have to turn left, you shouldn't you will not turn to the right. And so this is like navigation, so yeah, and this is exactly you're navigating the risk. Okay, you see the risk, you understand what the outcome could be. Okay, if I will not turn left but turn right, I probably will crush myself and everybody. So this is why I have to go left, and this is how you manage these risks. And yeah, I suppose it's in this way. Yeah, you should go fast, but only when you are sure that this acceleration will not break down.
Yes, interesting analogy. Artem, you see, it is always not easy to look into the future and to see the future. You see, and on the market, it seems, you know, that these big players like Apple and Google and Microsoft and Facebook play important role. In what way do you think, you know, using all this, I mean, taking into account all these new directions like artificial intelligence and machine learning, how will this, you know, IT landscape, how will it change in the future? And do you think there are some attractive niches for startups? You know, some niches that are not very attractive for big companies, but at the same time can be very attractive for small companies. So how will this IT industry, how is it going to change? And do you think there is enough of these attractive niches for market niches for startups?
I believe there are so many. We just need to be very, very observative. You know, all the best scientific achievements were made when people were just very attentive and observative. The same with the startup niches. There are so many things to do. There are so many niches you can fulfill. Yeah, I cannot say precisely where, because this is the biggest challenge in art, you know, to find these niches. The problem of that, even if you will find it, there could be some moments when, you know, it's just too early or it's just too late. It's maybe not the right place. So it can be a very great idea, but if it's came to some mind in a place and a time that's just, you know, too early for everything, so market is not ready. So for example, yeah, you can make a prototype, but you cannot popularize it. It just, you know, people don't get it. So that's why some products could be, you know.
If I understand, there is a question with timing. Some of the some ideas can be ahead of time, or
Yeah.
some ideas can be too late.
Yeah, and it's not only about timing, it's also about, you know, sometimes you can make a prototype, but it will be just too expensive for the current moment. Yeah, it's also somehow about timing, but for example, later there could be some advancement in some different technologies, so it will give you a possibility to make it very cheap, so everybody can use it. So, and that's how this innovation became very popular. So, but yeah, it mostly related to time, but not like very directly. Only the time is the reason. Yeah, and that's why some innovations are coming in some moment, as you know, all the elements became available. So okay, now people know enough. Now we have really good technologies, and they're cheap enough, so people can buy it. And then, like, yeah, it's a really good timing as people have this need. So etc. etc. And when everything, you know, is right, then this product became successful, and this is the perfect moment for the startup. But sometimes you should start earlier and just, you know, like to wait for this moment, and then finally, yes, this is the moment. So, but nobody can tell you when this moment will happen, because it's the market is very complex, and sometimes, yeah, it's not very obvious. So that's why it's a big art, because it like the function of a lot of parameters. So, and you just have to wait when all these parameters will finally be in the level when you're ready.
Yeah, yes, it's I like, Artem, I like your model. It reminded me of this idea of iPhone. You see, Apple didn't invent web camera and didn't invent a microphone, and didn't invent a SIM card, but they put all they put all those elements together and created a new and a very successful product. But also, yeah,
Yeah, this is a really good analogy. It's the best analogy for now for me. It's like a resonance. You are composing, and when this melody is,
resonates
resonate
with the market.
with the mood of the person, then you have so many emotions, and it's so cool when you feel it. The same happening in the market. Yeah. So the need, like the demand and the purpose, when they finally, in the resonance, this is a perfect moment for the startup. But sometimes, yeah, also it could be that this startup just you don't have enough resources, to fulfill all the needs. And this is probably the right moment for raising the money from investors. That's okay. You are like you finally create a great product. You finally can scale it, but you just don't have enough resources. Like everything is perfect, but the one thing that's missing is resources. Because
And this is when venture capitalists can help, can
yeah,
save.
this is the best moment. So you don't need investment. You can do it by yourself. But this moment in the market is so unique that this investment is just the right moment to invest. Because just a short example. Yeah, probably investors have money, but the competitor is like 5-10 years behind.
Ahead.
No, not ahead, but behind. So
Oh,
you
yes.
are much better in something, and yeah, you can give this money even to competitors, but they will just lose this moment of the market because they still need
They're behind.
several years, to create the
Behind.
product that's good enough for the market. But the market is ready now. Why you should wait for 1, 2, 3 years? So this is what
Yeah,
I call like a
I understand. So sometimes,
market resonance.
so yes, wow, yeah, exactly. It's like resonance of startup with the market.
Yeah.
And I understand. So sometimes maybe a startup has all the components, but still to finish the product, the company, the members of the team need to make some money to buy some food, and if they are short on money, it's like can be like a critical component. They can fail, and then an investor can basically save the company and their product. And is there a difference between a venture capitalist and angel investor?
Um, yeah, of course there are differences because mostly business angel is like a private investors that have enough money, to invest in pre-seed or seed rounds. and sometimes they can invest up to 500. There could be some investors. Yeah, some business angels. This is, by the way, I've met a really nice guy from Italy, Marco, and he's a representative and analyst of Italian business angel network from Milano, and they create some kind of syndicate of business angels, and they invest in groups. So they don't invest like they just make it different, you know. But in general, business angel can invest by himself, like up to 500,000. Yeah, this is the main difference, because venture capital is mostly they also don't have their own money. It's just a structure that's raised money from many different sources. Yeah, sometimes it could be like mono source, like, I don't know, Google Venture, or like, I don't know, Apple Venture, just an example. I'm not sure that Apple have this kind. But in general, yeah, the venture capital company just have a different structure of the capital and managing principles. But yeah, but in general, they play almost the same role. And there are also, you know, with business angel, it's easier because then you deal with this business angel, and probably he will become no, mostly it depends on the money and how you make a deal, but this business angel could be a part of your board. In venture capital,
so he can be a member of the startup board.
Yeah, why not? He can, you know, be the part of the team if he wants, of course, and if he has time for it. In venture capital company, mostly they have as a representative of the venture capital company, and that's how you deal with this representative.
Oh, I see.
So
I see.
money will come with somebody. So money will not come just no,
from the space. You need to deal with investors.
Sometimes it happens that they will not, you know, but as higher the amount of money is, more control from the investors.
More control from the investor.
Yeah, you will have. Yeah,
yeah, that's good to know. Artem, I know you personally know, you're in touch with many startup companies, and several of your university classmates run startups. So, by the way, I remember this term, crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
What is crowdfunding?
Yeah, crowdfunding is it's the like a different kind of fundraising. So there are some platforms for crowdfunding, but you can do it without a platform at all. You can do it just by yourself, using some social networks or just your phone book. So you can call everybody whom you know and just say, okay, I have a startup, invest into my startup.
And you will become a millionaire.
Yes.
So, you know, this is a story.
Every startup founder can tell his own story why you should invest. But I mean, that's crowdfunding, just another kind method. So you probably will get lower checks. So it will not be like hundreds, thousands, or millions, but it could be sometimes $100s, sometimes thousands. It depends of how convincible you will be in what financial possibilities your phone book persons have.
Yeah, I remember this story. You know, sometimes the company is doing better, and sometimes maybe there is a little bit of hot period. And one investor was asked, what was the biggest mistake that you made in your investment career? And he said, when Apple wasn't doing well, I pulled out my investment of whatever $10,000 or something like that, and that was my biggest mistake, because now it would be like $100 million.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of you have many friends who run startups. What are typical mistakes that startups make in relationships with investors and venture capitalists? What are some typical mistakes that startups make in dealing with maybe they lose control of their company?
I cannot say what is a typical mistake, but for me, the most critical mistake for now, from my experience, I cannot tell for everybody, but probably you can find it all in the internet as well. But the biggest for me is that sometimes when you have an investor and when you have too much control, too much pressure from investor, it can literally exhaust the founder, the team, and it just can kill the startup.
Yeah, so maybe you can survive one small mistakes,
Yeah.
but when many mistakes are made.
Just to finish it, and I
Yes.
use an analogy. When you plant a tree, you just have to care about this tree and to water this tree, and and later in several years it will bring you fruits. I don't know. And from the perspective of investor, if you're already invested, you don't have to shake this tree and say, "Oh, give me the crop immediately."
Yes.
This is a stupid decision.
Yes, like in winter, give me an apple now.
Yeah. So sometimes you should just understand how it works, and that it doesn't just make result in one click. So sometimes you just have to wait until it will grow enough and give you enough crop.
A very good analogy. So a farmer should work with nature, and a startup should work with the market.
Yeah. So even if we can have another analogy, like if you're just gathering something, sometimes you just have to spend enough time to gather something. Like, so it could be so many analogies, but sometimes you just need to have some job, and this job have to be done.
Yes, and Artem, you reminded me this saying that the best time to plant the tree was 20 years ago, but the second best moment is today.
Yeah, great.
And Artem, it seems I have learned a lot for my future biotech startup from. Thank you, Artem.
Wonderful.
And maybe to wrap our meeting up, you see, so sometimes sometimes the startup is doing well, and it's again this analogy with Apple. The Apple was doing well, and then it was a little bit bumpy, and then they brought Steve Jobs back, and again Apple became very successful. Yeah, so when a startup going through a little bit bumpy period, what are, maybe from your own experience, what are some ways the boss of the startup can keep morale of the team and keep the team motivated?
First of all, to remember that everything will pass. This moment will pass as well. But the most important is to stay the best version of yourself and to keep relationships, because the most important is your relationship with your team, with your friends, with your partners, with your investors, and whatever is happening, you should be the best version of yourself. And even if you will fail in the end, yeah, if it will happen, at least you will save your reputation, and the next startup will be way better, because you will keep your relationship with everybody, and they will see that you have done the best, and it was the best of you.
Yeah, very good idea, Artem. Yeah, artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence to to keep your team motivated. Yeah. What Artem, are there any comments that would you like to make, or that you would like, maybe some words that you would like to tell the people who are watching, or people who would like, people who would like to subscribe or propose some ideas?
For sure, for sure. Don't forget to like the video if you watch till this moment. Don't forget to subscribe if you watch to this moment, and of course, share this video, comment, leave your comments, give us your feedback, because it's very exciting to receive your feedbacks and reply. So yeah, let's make it interactive, not only one way. So we are really waiting for your comments to discuss. Maybe you have another topic for the next episode. So yeah, just let us know.
Artem, thank you for sharing your knowledge. I have learned a lot, and I'm looking forward for our future programs.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for your great questions, and good luck in your biotech startup. We will make it at least a unicorn.
Yeah, thank you, Artem.
Yeah.
Have a nice day, everyone, and make sure you join our next program.
Yeah, thank you, and have a nice weekend too. Bye-bye.